Mr. Biggs?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Thanks, Director Ray, for being here. I'm going to read a quote from a recent commentator. Quote, "We can continue playing compliance whack-a-mole, but at this point it's reasonable to ask whether this sort of large-scale collection on a general warrant model is inherently prone to these problems in a way that resists robust and timely oversight. We've seen this movie before. The court wags its finger at systemic noncompliance but ultimately decides to give the FBI yet another chance," close quote. Of course, this commentator is referring to the opinion from the Fifth Court which came out in November, which was just recently released about April 20th, I believe, April 21st. And in that opinion, the judge said, while the court is concerned about the apparent widespread violation, it lacks sufficient information at this time to assess the adequacy of FBI system changes and training. And so Congressman, the ranking member, Jim Jordan, and myself wrote to you on May 4th, and we presented 3 questions to you. The first one was, please explain why almost a year after the OIG's report about FISA abuses, the FISC found the FBI to still be abusing its warrantless surveillance authority under Section 702. And I think we brought that up because in one example, you had at least 40 individuals surveilled who had nothing to do with foreign intelligence whatsoever, and that was a finding. The second question was, please provide a detailed accounting of every instance since December 2019 in which the FBI has queried, accessed, otherwise used information obtained pursuant to Section 702 for purposes unrelated to national security. And the third question was, please explain what actions you have taken in the wake of the FISC November 2020 memo opinion in order to prevent the FBI from using its Section 702 authorities to surveil, investigate, or otherwise examine U.S. citizens. So we sent that on May 4th, and then over a month after that, last night, we received the response. It wasn't from you, it was from your deputy, or your assistant director, excuse me. And that letter was primarily focused on question 3, which I get, and you've mentioned that several times today, and I appreciate the efforts that you're trying to make to clean this up, or at least provide some kind of effort to prevent the kind of systemic abuses that we've seen in the past. But Director Ray, I think it's imperative that we understand the answers to questions 1 and 2, which I reiterated to you. And you don't have time to answer them all here. It would be better if we could have a dialogue, for sure. But what I want to know is, can you provide us a detailed accounting of every instance since December 19 in which the FBI has queried, accessed, or otherwise used information obtained by 702 for purposes unrelated to national security?
I can look and see if there's more information we can provide you, perhaps in a classified setting. I will say that the summary that you just gave, it's important, I think, for people not to confuse 2 different issues. The Inspector General's 2019 report has to do with surveillance.
Right.
And we've talked about that at great length, including at a prior hearing in front of this committee. The 702, the FISC opinion, has to do with querying, which is running searches in a database. There's nothing having to do with surveillance. All that is lawfully collected information, so it had nothing to do with surveillance or anything like that. That does not mean that we don't consider the findings in the FISC opinion incredibly important, which is why I'm putting in place all these measures.
The judge found them so troubling that he required now, and I was going to ask you about this, he requires you to provide a report every quarter about minimization, querying, your efforts there. Have you provided the first quarter's report to the FISC?
I'd have to check. I know that we deal with the FISC fairly regularly and provide all sorts of reports to them. It's important to note that the court approved our procedures, our minimization procedures, our collection procedures, our querying procedures, did not find misconduct.
Didn't find misconduct,
right.
but it was still, it found widespread I'm going to use the word improprieties, but he was very concerned about widespread improprieties, and that's why he wants the report. He wanted it going forward. is to find out what you guys are doing. So I want to know if Congress is going to get a copy of that report.
The gentleman's time has expired. The witness may answer the question.
I'm happy to see what information we can provide you. The court, though, does not speak in terms of improprieties, and I think the court knows how to use that term when that's what it thinks it's found.